You might say, well, I'm not Lenovo. I don't have Lenovo's budget, but it is a way of thinking. You're constantly thinking, how can I do this faster, cheaper, better? Once you start thinking that way, then you can become like them. I have really been looking forward to producing this episode for you based off of a conference that I attended about a week ago. And I know that this episode is going to put you in a position where you can think really strategically. You can borrow strategies from billion-dollar companies and apply it in your business starting today. And it's a roadmap of sorts that you can use over and over again. So let's dive in. Now, I have to start by telling you how this all came about. My husband started talking about going to CES, okay? He's like, I really want to go to CES, the biggest tech conference in the world. I'm like, okay, that's nice. So we got our tickets, we went to Las Vegas. And in the keynotes, we have the CEO of Lenovo, the CEO of NVIDIA, the CEO of AMD, so pretty heavy hitters. So we go for the keynote, and a series of things begin to happen from the keynote to the end of the conference 4 days later that completely blew my mind. And I was like, I have to distill this and come back and explain it all to you because I got to study. I'm a student of business. I got to study what the people running the leading companies are doing. And I broke those down into actionable steps we can take today. I got about 8 really big lessons. I'm going to share the 5 biggest ones with you. Okay. So again, this is a beautiful one to have, like if you're not walking the dog or driving, you definitely want to pull out a notebook, take some notes, think about this, answer the questions I'm going to ask, because this is not an episode that's just an episode to listen to and it's cool. This is an episode that can change your business. Okay. So let's talk about these 5 takeaways. The first takeaway is that relentless, fast innovation is required. Okay. Relentless, fast innovation is required. So when we went for the keynote was hosted by Lenovo. Lenovo is not a company I've ever taken really seriously. I'm like a Apple person, right? Like, so I don't look at them for computers. I don't look at them for phones. I don't look at them for anything. And I'm watching this keynote. Okay. And this keynote lasts about 90 minutes. And it's a panel. It's not just one person talking. And in the 90 minutes, they announced upwards of 10 new releases, new products, new features of products, new versions of products, 10 of them in one keynote. So they talked about Lenovo Kira, which is like their personal AI assistant. They talk about the new things they're doing with Motorola, the phone. They talked about the different things we're doing with their computers. They talked about their wearables. They talked about their glasses. But they had 10 different new releases. And it made me think, I was like, wait a minute, these guys are serious. So I pull out ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, when did they have their last set of new releases? I'm thinking, oh, they did that at CES the year before. No, they were at the World Innovation Conference event, whatever that was, in September. So we're talking 5 months, barely 5 months ago. And they announced what they announced there. And here they are with more things. And so the thing I walked away with is, it doesn't matter how good your stuff is. It doesn't matter what kind of leadership you have in the marketplace. It doesn't matter. The world we live in is moving so fast that what is normal is relentless, fast innovation if you are going to be a leader, if you're going to have a business that thrives. Now, you might say, well, I'm not Lenovo. I don't have Lenovo's budget and all of that, but it is a way of thinking, right? How can I deliver my service better? How can I get better systems? How can I give better access? How can my onboarding be better? How can my marketing system be better? How can we be more efficient with what we do with billing or charging people? You're constantly thinking, how can I make this better? How can I do this faster, cheaper, better? How can I do this better? And once you start thinking that way, then you can become like them, not the way they would do it at a multi-billion-dollar, in a multi-billion-dollar way, but you can do it the way you do it. And the thing is, once you start doing it that way, you keep doing it that way. How can my hiring process be better, right? And all of these things. So For me, I started looking at my company and I asked myself this question: where can I innovate in my business? And that's the question I want you to ask today. Where can I innovate in my business starting today? It could be client communications. It could be the way you manage leads in your business. It could be the way you run your calls as a coach. It could be the way you run your meetings as a private practice owner with your team, including your practice manager. Like, how can I be more innovative? How can I innovate? How can I make this better? Okay. Powerful question. It's a question worth asking every single day. Okay. So next takeaway. Partnerships with congruent leaders are required. Okay. Partnerships with congruent leaders. So I was blown away by the fact that they had 10 releases. Right on the back of those 10 new releases, we had 10 partnerships. So the CEO is called YY. I can't say his full name, but everybody calls him YY. So YY comes up and he's like, oh yeah, we have this new release and and we have this new partnership with, and he'll call on the CEO of NVIDIA. And then they start having this conversation about, what they partnered on to create. And they say, oh, and we have another partnership with Qualcomm. And Qualcomm CEO comes on and they talk about this new thing they did. Oh, we have another partnership with AMD. And he went on and on and on. I counted at least 8. I think there were more, but I counted at least 8. And that is with Lenovo itself. They acquired Motorola and there were partnerships there, but I'm not even including those. 8 partnerships that he talked about. And then it reminded me of this concept that one is too small a number for greatness. And if you're thinking about a business that's going to help a lot of people, create time freedom for you, create financial freedom for you, and it's your legacy play, because my businesses are my legacy play, right? It's your legacy play. Then you're going to want to think about partnership. Now, I want to be very careful. What I mean by partnership is not just, a lot of times what people think is, oh, we're going to split the company 50-50 and we're going to do all of this stuff. I'm not even talking equity. I am talking creating win-win situations. Like, how can I partner with somebody in such a way that they're bringing a lot of value to my company and I'm bringing a lot of value to their company, right? Or we create this way of serving people and this is like a separate vertical, if you will, and we're both benefiting from that vertical because each party is lending their own expertise, right? And they didn't just partner with anybody. When I looked at it, what I saw is that they partnered with the people who are leaders in their own rights, who are, top of their game in their own right in what they do, right? So NVIDIA, leader in what they do. AMD, leader in what they do, right? Like, just think about it that way. Intel, leader in what they do. Microsoft, these are all people they partnered with, right? The Microsoft Copilot, Intel Core for their processors, all of those things. And so they found the leaders in this space and they collaborated with them. I started asking myself is, what if leaders hung out with leaders? What if as a leader, as a person running this business, and you're playing to the top of your game and all of that, you were surrounded by other people who do congruent things, but they're top in their own right? Okay, so this is a question I asked myself. Who could I partner with without giving up control, where one partnership could change everything? Right? One partnership could change. And sometimes you have to give up some control and all of that stuff. But I say that because a lot of times that's the first thing people run to without even establishing that this is mutually beneficial, right? Okay. So who could I partner with without giving up control, where one partnership could change everything? One partnership. Like, for instance, with what I do, let's say, I released a book on the 5th of January called The 7-Figure Physician CEO, which is the textbook for physicians for 2026 and beyond, right? It's the textbook because it gives you the 7-figure framework. This is what I need to do if I want to become a master at building the kind of business for which 7 figures is the floor. Okay. So that's what the book is about. And I want you to imagine me being in partnership with somebody who has access to 100,000 physicians, right? I want you to imagine that now all of a sudden, my book can go to 100,000 people. This is the way to think about that, okay? All right, so who could I partner with without giving up control, where one partnership could change everything? This is something to pay attention to. It's a question to ask. I want to make sure it's mutually beneficial. Okay, like, so for instance, with the book, we're going to do 100,000 copies of this, and the book goes for $9.99, and we're going to do it for your people. You get 50% of whatever comes up. And all that person is doing is introducing the book to their audience, and they're making an extra 50 grand. That's it. From, so did they win? Yes. Did I win? Yes. You see what I'm saying? Like that's creating the win-win, and that's a partnership, right? Okay. So that's something to think about. Now, the third takeaway, this one almost had me laughing. Okay. For instance, they started talking about Lenovo Kira, which is their personal AI assistant. And think about like the audio part of ChatGPT. So it's talking back and all of those kind of things. And you can link it with all your Lenovo products, right? And so that would be like your Motorola wearable. It would be your phone. It would be your AI glasses. It would be your computer, right? And it can sync all of this information together. So the person who was doing the demo, and this could have been recorded, but so the person doing the demo is like, make me a LinkedIn post based on the keynotes from CES and all of that stuff. And the AI assistant, because she attended it, right? The AI assistant was able to create that. As like, you can post it to my LinkedIn. Oh, I need to go for a dinner thing with my family. Find me a place. Let's make a reservation. All of that stuff. So it was so cool. But they talked about Kira like, oh, it will sync across all your things. And the more you use it, the more they learn who you are and what your preferences are. They can take all your notes for your entire day, and they can schedule posts for you. They can respond to emails. They can respond to text. They can do all of this stuff, and went on and on and on. Now, I am not a Lenovo person. I'm an Apple person. Okay. So I have my MacBook, I have my iPhone, I have my iPad, and all of these things. They were so good at what they were talking about that I started wondering. I was like, should I get a Lenovo laptop? Should I get the wearable? Should I get the glasses? Should I link all of this so I can have my personal assistant, all of this stuff? If you heard them talking, you would have thought they invented AI. You would have thought they invented this whole concept of a personal assistant. And I had to tell myself, this has been around. This is technology that has been around. This is stuff that has been around. But the way they positioned it, it's like, if you want to have this, we are the people to talk to. So it gave me the third takeaway, which is packaging and positioning matter more than you think. People will believe you are who you say you are. And I'm not saying they were manipulative. I'm not saying they were presenting information that was not true, but their storytelling and their demonstration, all this stuff was so good, right? That was almost like they invented AI. They invented the personal AI assistant. Like nobody has ever seen this technology before, right? And so your business is going to get positioned one way or the other. It's going to get packaged one way or the other. There's going to be a perception of it one way or the other. You can either decide on the perception, or you can let it happen by default. And I want to invite you to not let it happen. Like they didn't let it happen by default. They decided this is our product. This is the way we want it to be positioned. And they communicated it that way. Right? So your positioning can be a default positioning, or it can be an intentional curated positioning. I invite you to choose the latter. Okay. So we got to position this. Now you may say, well, I can't have a keynote in the sphere. I'm going to talk about the sphere in a second. I can't have a keynote in the sphere. I can't, do that. But this is the thing. One of the simplest ways to do this is storytelling. So every time you share a win that is happening in your business, that is positioning for your clients. Every time you share the results they're creating or you're creating, that's positioning. Anytime you share where you're going, that's what they did. Some of the products, they were available. Some of the products were going to be available, right? And they're like, okay, this, you get it by, spring of whenever, all of that stuff. Now, you can share like the journey, what we're building, where we're going. That's part of positioning. When you share that, right? So you got to tell the story. Right? You got to tell the story. So this is the question I asked myself, and I want to invite you to ask yourself as well. Okay. So this is question number 3. How can I tell my story better? What we've done, what we're doing, where we're going. How can I tell my story better? Okay. So when you tell your origin story, you hear me talk about when we first started, my very first business, which was the private practice. You hear me talk about when we first started the podcast, right? How I started in my basement with my iPhone and the earphones that come with the iPhone, right? You've heard me tell that story. You've heard me tell the story of what we've done. I've shared client wins, how this person was an employed physician, has been working with us for 3 years. Now has hit multi-million dollars in their practice. You hear me share the stories of the doctors hitting 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, right? The doctor who had their first 7-figure month. What is that? Is positioning to let you know, this is what we do. This is what we're about. We are the company to work with. If you have a dream to build a 7-figure business, multi-7-figure business, without sacrificing your health and without sacrificing your family, we're the company to look at. Is all positioning. It's all positioning. When we tell what we've done as a company, we've been on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies for 3 years in a row. We're telling that story. It's all positioning. So the thing is, how do you do that for yourself? How can you tell that story better? How can you share those stories better? So can you position your business, even if though you don't have the multi-billion-dollar budget like Lenovo does? Yes, you can. You can. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4. Okay, so number 4 is be a cathedral builder. And you're like, what in the, Dr. Una, what is going on with you? Okay, but hear me out. So sometime during the keynote, and I do not remember who said this, I wish I did so I could give them credit. The person was talking about the cathedrals that were built in Europe like hundreds of years ago. And he said, when they built those cathedrals, they did not have the population to fill those cathedrals with. They built the cathedral to say, how far can we go? How big can we make it? How ginormous can we build this? How can we build something that will be here hundreds of years from now? That was what drove them to build the cathedrals. It wasn't a demand for space. And when he said that, I was like, whoa, why is this important? It's important because you want to build your business in almost like in 3 ways, okay? You want to take care of the urgent, the things that must be taken care of right now, okay? You have to pay attention to them. If you ignore them, your business folds, okay? You want to pay attention. You want to build for your short-term goals, what I want to have in the next 90 days, what I want to have in the next year, what I want to have in the next 3 to 5 years. And then you want to build your business for legacy, right? And so when we talk about being a cathedral builder, we are talking about building for, like, build for now, but build for legacy. How can you build something that will still be relevant 100 years from now, right? And so, for instance, let's talk about this a little. And I've been to Italy and I've been to England, and some of these buildings you're like, how could somebody have built this in 1600? This makes no sense, right? But you can see the mindset behind this. They were cathedral builders. I mean, they build a cathedral, they're cathedral builders, but it's from this mindset of how big can we make it? How far can we go? How far can we take this? So I'll give you an example with EntreMD, right? We could say we're going to help people grow businesses and launch businesses. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have to launch businesses. We can help people grow businesses. We can help people scale businesses and all of those things. And we could have built this firm and just kept it nice and cushioned, left it alone. Now, I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, but this is an example of cathedral building. Towards the end of last year, I said, okay, there's so many things we can do. There's so many things that we're really good at. But what is the thing that we can do that will create the biggest shift in the physician community? What is the thing that we can do that we're going to gulp and we're going to go for it? And we're going to do what we must do. We'll be as innovative, as creative, as persistent, and as strategic as we need to be to pull it off. What can that thing be? And I remember in that moment thinking, I was like, what if you decided to help 1,000 doctors hit their first or next 7 figures in revenue? What if you did this such that in a time where private practice is just shutting down, people who own coaching businesses, they're like, you replace your physician's salary as a coach and all that. What if you made 7 figures the new floor? Because what that will do, the ripple effect of it, if you teach physicians how to make 7 figures the new floor without sacrificing their family or without sacrificing their health, what you will end up is thousands and thousands of empowered physicians. And when you have empowered physicians who understand how to build businesses, who understand how to build business systems, who are financially empowered, then all of a sudden the golden handcuffs go away. And all of a sudden, we can take our positions as the leaders that we're supposed to be, that we're called to be, that we're positioned to be, and we will turn the healthcare space right side up because who else is going to do it? We're the ones called to do this, right? And so I remember sitting with that for weeks and weeks and weeks because I could not immediately say yes to it because it's a Herculean task. Now, have we done it? Yes. But are we going to need to do different things at a different scale to pull it off? Yes. Yes, like saying yes to that meant that I was going to spend time in December, which I ended up doing the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of December, recording the framework. Because now I have to have a body of work where I'm like, guys, this is the body of work. We can do this. Read this, listen to this book and start implementing it. And of course, if you need support with it, we'll help you with it, but start implementing it. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's so many people who've read the book and they give me feedback and I'm like, okay, what is the biggest aha you got from the book? It's like 7 figures is possible. The math is doable. And they're saying all this stuff. I'm like, yes, right? Yes, like do it, right? Okay. And so for me, that's my cathedral. Because it's like, how big can I take it? I know if I do this, okay, we end up with so many doctors thriving as entrepreneurs, which is good for everybody. Like, think about it. If we have all these private practices thriving, these are patients that get care. These are patients that get great care. These are patients who get doctors who stay in business because they're doing it in a way that honors not just their business, but their lives and all of these things, right? So the businesses are thriving. Doctors are empowered. Doctors decide, because entrepreneurs, what we do is we solve problems. And once you get good at solving problems, you look for higher level problems to solve, case in point, right? And so now we start taking on segments of the healthcare space. Like, what if we could fix this? Let's fix this. Let's fix this. Let's fix access to this. The people who are the advocates who are going to go and they're going to handle the insurance companies, they're going to come out of this crop of doctors, right? And so we have the insurance company now has a different level of accountability. Hospital administration has a different level of accountability. Doctors are performing at the highest level possible. And we have the narrative for the physician community being completely rewritten, and the healthcare space gets turned right side up, right? It's a cathedral. So we're not just talking about building a program, right? EntreMD is not a program. We're building cathedrals. So the question that I ask, that I want you to ask is, what cathedral am I building? What am I creating that will still matter 50 years from now, 100 years from now? And you don't have to have the answer right away. And if you have the answer and it makes you scared and you need to sit with it for a few weeks, that's fine. That's what I did. There's no timeline, if you will, to this. The important thing is to work on it, right? But this is a powerful question to ask. Very powerful. The last takeaway, which it was very interesting, okay? Now, I wish my husband was here to tell you all the details of this because he's more of the tech person than I am, but I'll give you an example, okay? So while we were there, we walked into the space that Amazon had, right? So we walked into the space and the very first thing I saw was I don't even remember, it's something link, right? And I saw it, I was like, what is this? And it was like an internet provider, the same way Starlink is, right? The one that Elon Musk did. And my husband said, wow, there is no monopoly. And this is number 5. There's no monopoly. So he may have created Starlink, and it's like, we're the ones and all of those things. But here comes Amazon. And they're also doing that. There are people who are known for creating, like the TVs not the screensaver. See how untech I am? Look how non-tech savvy I am. Where, like the display after you walk away for a while, after it's idling for a while, is literally artwork, like beautiful artwork. And so there's a company who had monopoly over that. But when we got there were 3 or 4 companies that were doing that, and on and on and on. And so this is the thing. Tesla, they have electronic vehicles, which is fantastic, but there are so many different ones, Okay. So even the biggest players don't have monopoly. So which makes it pride, like an extreme level of very bad pride for us to think that we have monopoly. We don't have monopoly. So this is the deal. We don't get to coast. We don't get to rest on what we did yesterday. Now, that doesn't mean we're hustling, we're bent out of shape and all of that. But what it means is we don't stop innovating. We don't stop looking for better ways to do things. We don't think small, we think big. And so we're thinking, things that can last longer and all of that. Like, is the price of leadership. The price of leadership in a category is vigilance, is innovation, is relevance, is staying relevant. And part of the challenge that, happened to us as physicians is we had monopoly for so long, right? Because we were just the only players really in the healthcare space when it comes to the clinical side of things, but the monopoly is gone. And we have to respond to that. There's no monopoly. Okay. So if a $1 trillion company cannot have monopoly, then we shouldn't think that we would either. Okay. So the question to ask is, if a significant competitor showed up tomorrow, would my business still win? Okay. And that's a question to sit with. Like, how would I respond then? Let's say I responded and I stayed ahead. How would I respond then? We want to be showing up that way now, even though nothing has happened. Monopoly, nobody has monopoly. And not with the way the world is changing. right now. Okay? Not the way the world is changing right now. So this experience at CES, and CES is Consumer Electronics Show. Okay? So CES 2026 was a very powerful experience. Shout out to the people who did it. And I will say this as a bonus takeaway. There are so many people. I don't know that I've seen that many people at one event. Okay? There are so many people there. And I'm like, what in the world? So again, I pulled out chat. I said, how many people were here for CES last year? It said 142,000 people. That's a lot of people, right? Okay. And then I said from how many companies, but chat can hallucinate sometimes. So initially it said 58, then it said 150. So who knows? Okay. I will look for the data, but it's a lot of companies. Okay, there are a lot of people from South Korea, China, Japan, France. There's so many people like from all over the world. And so I started asking myself, I was like, how does somebody build an event that attracts 142,000 people? And you can't just go off of their website and buy the ticket. Like you have to apply. You have to apply with a company email address, that shows that you're part of this company. I think they even needed a letterhead from your company, like all kinds of stuff. So there are all kinds of roadblocks to not get you attend, and tickets are not cheap. And still 142,000 people. And so I started looking into the history of it. I said, okay, when did they first host this conference? 1967. And I thought about it. I'm like, 1967 to 2026. That is unbelievably insane. It's an extraordinary amount of consistency and innovation. The first one they had were 14,000 people in attendance. And they had 14,000 people because it was a spin-off of another event, okay? So 14,000 people to 142,000 people. How do they do that? And funny enough, their first keynote was also Lenovo. So they had this event. They started doing it over and over again, getting better and better at it, innovating with it, stretching it, making it cathedral-esque. And here we are. So I say that to say there is power in consistency. There is power in longevity. There is power in staying in a lane and doing something over and over again. And instead of getting bored and finding a million new things, you're innovating within the thing. There is something about it, right? There's something about it. So I want to challenge you to think about it. Now, I'm not saying the business you're doing, stay stuck with it and all of that stuff. But when you find the thing, go all in on the thing. Don't get distracted. Don't let shiny object syndrome come for you. Innovate in the thing. Make it better. Make it better. Make it bigger. Make it more relevant. Partner with better people, right? And I don't mean better as the human. I mean like the opportunity, right? Okay. So this is what I want to leave you with. You maybe were not at CES, okay? But I was. And I brought these lessons to you. I want you to take, even if all you do, if you do nothing, I want you to take one of these questions. I want you to do a deep dive on the question, and I want you to start implementing today. And I want you to come to my Facebook or my Instagram. Okay, so I'm Dr. Unachukwu, Dr. Unachukwu spelled out on Instagram. I'm Neka Unachukwu on Facebook. And I want you to send me a private message and you say, Dr. Una, I heard your episode about your 7-figure business lessons from CES 2026. And this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. Okay. And if this was a gift to you, imagine if we get these strategies and these tricks and hacks and all of this from billion-dollar entrepreneurs, and we make it available for physicians everywhere. Okay. So I want you to take this episode. I want you to share it with the doctors in your world. Tell them, run, do not walk, to listen to this episode, and let's implement these things together. Okay. As always, I am rooting for you, and we are committed to bringing you the most powerful strategies, mindset shifts, tactics that you need to make 7 figures your new floor, for you to thrive as a physician entrepreneur, because the physician space needs you and the healthcare space needs you. Rooting for you always. I'll see you on the next episode.